There are exactly 19 colors on my watercolor palette, but why did I pick all of these colors? In this video I'm going to explain you everything, which paints I use and why did I pick these colors. We are going to swatch all of the colors and we are also going to paint a fun watercolor flower piece using all of the colors in my watercolor palette. My name is Luisa and this is the Lulu Blue Studio. Let's start painting together. My watercolor palette contains 19 paints from the brands Schmincke, My Mary and Van Gogh. In this video I'm going to swatch them all and I'm going to show you also how to paint bright flowers with all of these colors. The first color I pick is a Scarlet Red, which is a bright red color with a very good light fastness, which means that it does not fade easily in contact with light. I picked this color because I really wanted a type of red that was very bright, and I really like to mix this color, especially with the orange on my color palette and with Quinacridone Magenta, which is another color that I will show you later on. As you can see, this color is very intense and bright when it's used with a little amount of water, but then when you dilute this color with a higher amount of water, you can really obtain different color values. The second color I'm swatching is a transparent orange. These first two colors are both from Schmincke, which is a German brand that makes products for fine artists. This transparent orange is a very brilliant color and I like to use it because of its hue and also because of the different color values that I'm able to achieve when I use more water. I love to use this color in combination with the red, the Scarlet Red that I just swatched, and also in combination with yellow ochre. And in fact, yellow ochre is this third type of color that I'm swatching. This is also from Schmincke and is based on iron oxide. This color is quite opaque and I really use it to create the center of my flowers. When I use it very concentrated, I can obtain quite a high coverage of the paper with this pigment because, as I said, it contains iron oxide, which is quite opaque. But if you dilute this color with a higher concentration of water, you can obtain a yellow that is much lighter. And so I like to use this color, as I'm doing even at the moment, diluting this yellow in order to create something that is much lighter. I like to play with all of the colors in my color palette and I like to use them either very concentrated or more diluted when I use more water. In this phase of my watercolor journey, I really like to paint a lot with warm colors, and therefore these three colors that I swatched first are really some of my favorite ones. And based on the amount and percentages of red, orange or yellow ochre that I use, I'm really able to obtain thousands of different colors, color hues to play with in my color paintings. If you are just starting your watercolor journey, I recommend you trying these three colors because are really basic colors for any watercolor palette. The other color I'm swatching at the moment is lemon yellow. This is a color from Schmincke. This is a bright yellow with a slight hue towards the green color. And I like to use this color in particular for the center of my flowers. I usually mix it with the yellow ochre, but also to bring brightness to my flower compositions. I like to use it next to darker colors, such as blues or dark purples, because as you can notice, it's really a type of bright yellow that can allow other colors to pop as well. The next color I'm swatching is called Azomethine Green Yellow, and this is a color that I found in the shop where I usually go to buy my supplies, and it's a color from the brand Van Gogh. It's a brilliant, transparent, deep green with a color that goes towards the yellow tone. And I bought this color because I usually paint flowers, so I use a lot of green colors on my color palette, and I really wanted to have a type of green that was a little bit lighter compared to all of the other greens that I already owned. And the other greens that I already owned, I'm going to swatch later, so I'm going to show you how they are. So I picked this Azomethine Green Yellow because of its different color hue that brought a bit of brightness into my leaves. The next color I'm swatching is the Quinacridone Magenta. This is a color from Schmincke. I love this color. It's a color that I basically use in all of my watercolor flower compositions, and it's a bright pink that I love to mix in particular with red colors and orange colors. So with, for example, the transparent orange and with the Scarlet Red that I've already swatched. This color is also beautiful when mixed with the Cobalt Blue because it creates a beautiful purple color hue that you can play with different color values. The next color I'm swatching is called the Brilliant Opera Rose. This is another color from Schmincke, as also Quinacridone Magenta was from Schmincke. And this is another bright pink, and I bought this color more recently because I really wanted to add on my color palette a sort of bright, almost towards the neon color of pink, because I like to use a lot of pink colors and I really wanted something that was catching the eye of the observer. So I bought this Brilliant Opera Rose, and I have to say is one of my favorite colors. In particular, I like to mix this Brilliant Opera Rose with orange, with transparent orange, as I am doing at the moment to create this flower. The combination of transparent orange and Brilliant Opera Rose really creates a type of color that is different from anything else that I have on my color palette. So I'm really happy that I can achieve this type of brightness with these two main colors. The next color that really I cannot do without is Burnt Umber. This is a warm brown color that contains burnt natural earth. So I use this color to create a lot of contrast, especially when I wanted to create darker leaves or when I wanted to highlight the center or the disc of my flowers. And I usually like to combine this color with my black color, which is Mars Black. And I also like to mix this brown with the bright pink colors of my color palette, like Brilliant Opera Rose and Quinacridone Magenta. The next color I will swatch is Mars Black. This is a color from Winsor & Newton. It is a deep black color with a little bit of a brown undertone. And I am very satisfied with the depth of this color, of this black, and therefore this is the major black that I'm using, especially to create the center of my flowers. I have to say that I do not use black very much in my paintings. I really use it sometimes to create some contrasting areas in dark color, for example, as I said, in the center of my flowers. And so for the small details that I need to create, this type of black really helps my case and makes me happy with the results overall. The next color that I'm going to swatch is a new type of color that I just added on my color palette, and it's called Payne's Grey. This is a color from My Mary. My Mary is an Italian brand, and I really wanted to try their colors, so I bought this gray and another green that I will show you later on. I really wanted a type of grey on my color palette, and I decided to opt for this grey that is very intense and goes towards the blue color. I had the pleasure to play a little bit with this grey color, and I love how this grey color really looks in combination, especially with the colors that I have on my color palette, like the orange, the transparent orange, but also with the Quinacridone Magenta and Brilliant Opera Rose. I really like how I can dilute this color, and when I use more water, all the different color values of this gray that are more towards the blue color are really nice and matching all the other colors I have on my color palette. The first green I ever bought for my color palette is called the Sap Green. This is a transparent, light and bright green that I really love to use for my leaves and for my stems. When I started my watercolor journey, I really wanted a bright color because in general I am an artist that is playing a lot with bright colors compared to earthy and duller colors. So I really prefer to play and to start working with the darker colors. And so this Sap Green was the perfect green that I thought I could buy to start playing with leaves and stems. Recently then I added to my watercolor palette another green from my Mary, and this is Viridian, because I really had other greens on my color palette, but I didn't have this Viridian color, which is a very bright and towards the blue color, this green. So I will also swatch all of the other greens in my color palette, and you will notice how really Viridian was a color that I was missing. And therefore I bought it recently and I started to play recently with this color, and I really like how intense this color is, and also its color hue is toward the blue and not toward the yellow like all the other colors, the green colors I have on my color palette. The next color I'm swatching is Quinacridone Purple. This is a blue-red type of violet that I love to mix, especially with the Quinacridone Magenta that I have on my color palette. I really like to place these colors together because the magenta starts to blend with this darker type of purple, and I really have to say the blends are beautiful. This is a color that I use quite often and that I bought more recently compared to the other colors. Let's say it was not one of my first choices, but the more I started painting, the more I realized that I like to use pink colors and purple colors, and therefore I added to my color palette this Quinacridone Purple. You can really see how playing with different color values and so adding more water to this pigment will really allow you to obtain different, almost like different type of colors, because it's going to be much lighter. The other purple that I added to my color palette is a Cobalt Violet. This is a violet from Schminke, as also the other violet was from Schminke, and it has more of a bluish undertone that sits very well with the Quinacridone Magenta, but also with the Quinacridone Purple that I just swatched. And so I really like to use this Cobalt Violet. Personally, between Cobalt Violet and Quinacridone Purple, I prefer Quinacridone Purple. So Cobalt Violet, it's not one of my most important colors on my color palette. Let's say I could live without, but I really like to have it and to play with it. The next color that I'm going to swatch is Phthalo Blue. This is a type of deep blue with a slight green undertone, and I bought this color from Schminke. I really like to mix it with the different percentages, also with the yellows in my color palette, to obtain different greens. Because as you know, mixing together blue and yellow, you can obtain different type of greens. I also have to say that I have enough greens in my color palette at the moment that I'm happy to play with, but really when you mix together two colors like yellow and blue, you can obtain so many more type of mixtures and colors that it makes watercolor painting even more fun. So I recommend you to have at least one type of blue. The second blue that I'm swatching at the moment is Cobalt Blue. This is in particular a color that I bought from Winsor & Newton, but you can find it also from other brands. And it's a lighter type of blue. This is almost of a semi-transparent bright blue. And I love to use it on its own, but I also love to use it, in particular this Cobalt Blue, in mixture with the Quinacridone Magenta. Because the type of purple that comes out is lovely, and I really use it often in my watercolors. The next green I'm swatching is called Green Earth, and is a type of green that is a little bit more muted. And I bought this color. It's not as colorful as all of the other greens on my color palette, but I really like to use it when I want to give to my leaves, for example, more of a muted color hue. And so I use it for leaves, and in particular I like to mix this color with blues or greens when I want to create other types of greens on my watercolor painting. The next green that I have on my color palette is one of my favorite, Cobalt Green Dark. This is a color from Schmincke, very deep and opaque with a blue tone. I really love the intensity of this color, and I use it especially when I want to create some contrasting brushstrokes in my paintings, like I am doing at the moment, where I wanted to add some small leaves that really pop from the center of this composition. And so this is a color that I can use in different color values, and in particular I like to use it with very concentrated amount of pigment, so with a little amount of water to create these dark brush strokes that lead toward the blue color in my paintings. And the last color that I'm going to swatch is the last blue on my color palette, which is another color from Schmincke and is called the Prussian Blue. This is a deep cyan blue color, and it has a little bit of a green undertone that if you need to pick just one color of blue color, let's say, that I have on my color palette, I would tell you to go with this one, with this Prussian Blue. And I really like to use the blues in particular to be mixed with, for example, the green colors on my color palette to obtain different green types. And this Prussian Blue is a color that really can be used in different ways and goes very well with all of the greens. I have to say I'm not an artist that uses a lot the blue colors in themselves, in the sense that I don't usually paint blue flowers, for example, but I really mix a lot of blues into my greens, and I really play with these colors to create, let's say, secondary colors. And at this point in this video, for the last few minutes, I really just want to talk about mixtures that I love creating with the colors I have. One of my favorite mixtures is really adding Azomethine Green Yellow to Cobalt Green Dark. This is something that I usually do at the end of my compositions when I want to create some contrasting brush strokes in dark color, so the Cobalt Green Dark is the perfect green base. But then when I wanted to add some lightness to my paintings, sometimes I realize maybe this painting is a little bit too dark compared to what I wanted to achieve. I really like to add, for example, onto the leaves some brush strokes with some Azomethine Green Yellow, because as we have seen, this green is such a bright type of green towards the yellow color that helps me to bring some lightness into the leaves, for example. So if you are a beginner watercolor artist and you need a suggestion on which colors to start with, I really would recommend you to start and pick maybe some of the colors that I just highlighted. Think which type of colors you like your flower compositions to be in. For example, do you like to have, for example, more flowers toward the red color, orange color, or are you more a person that prefers to paint with blue colors? And in that sense, then you can decide whether to maybe purchase more of a red type of paint or something more towards the blue color or something purple, for example. So my recommendation for you is to maybe start to buy some basic colors like red, orange, an ochre, a yellow lemon, and 1 or 2 greens. And then the more you start painting, the more you will realize which type of colors you like to play with and you like to create flowers with, and therefore you can keep adding to your color palette other colors that maybe you don't buy immediately. For example, as I grew as an artist, I've decided to add a gray color in my color palette, which is this Payne's gray, and also a type of green that is more toward the blue color, which is the Viridian that I just bought. But even, for example, as I shared my experience, in first place I didn't have on my color palette the Cobalt Violet and the Quinacridone Purple, but the more I played with the colors I had, I realized that I wanted some more purple pigments on my watercolor palette, and therefore I added these two paints. Another thing that I would like you to keep in mind is that you can start purchasing just a few colors, and remember that mixing together different colors you can really achieve almost all of the colors of the spectrum. So you can start with fewer colors, maybe you can buy a red, an orange, one type of yellow, one type of purple, and one blue and one green, and then mixing all of these colors together you can create many more colors that you can play with your flower compositions. In the description below you can find all of the colors that I have highlighted in this video. I really hope that this type of tutorial was useful for you. Let me know if you would like to see in the future more videos about the supplies that I use, because I can also share my experience with supplies like gouache, with watercolor inks that I'm using, and even, for example, the brushes that I'm using. So let me know which type of content you would like to see next, and in particular if you are interested in understanding which other supplies I'm using at the Lulu Blue Studio. Thank you for watching!